Welcome back to another episode of Eyes Wide, Ears Wide, a Poetry Cafe, up close and personal. I am your host, none other than the Arkutec. We gonna get it going, but before we get it going, y'all know what to say? Let me hear you. Eyes wide, ears wider. Yes, sir, we here. And we gonna kick it right off if y'all ready. Y'all ready? Okay. First up, we got Blaque Butterfli.
Jesus is real. I said Jesus is real, and when it comes to my belief in him, some consider me to be somewhat aloof, but I'm living proof that Jesus Christ is the truth. See, I shouldn't even be here. The devil tried to invoke fear and figured he had me in the palms of his hands as he pushed and shoved me down through the valley of the shadow of death. Like the sand was running out of my hourglass, he assumed that I wouldn't last, so he stood by, waiting for me to take my last breath. He actually rejoiced at the thought of me leaving my family bereaving. That day I left work and drove myself to the ER with a racing heart, barely breathing. The ER took me in right away and immediately began attaching devices and machines, poking and prodding. I did my best to respond to all of their questions, nodding and crying, trying to remain calm, but the 23rd Psalm came to mind as I started to feel like I was about to have a panic attack. I began reciting in my head as a nurse approached to draw blood for tests and bring back the facts. I sat there practically unraveling because I didn't know what was happening. All I could think was how much I needed my family there with me. All was well with my vitals and EKG, but the doctor came back and stated that normal blood count was about 13, but mine was only 3. I wasn't quite sure what that meant, but what I understood is the information that he relayed to me couldn't have been good. In a nutshell, he was saying that my iron in blood was dangerously low, prohibiting proper oxygen flow, hence the shortness of breath. Everything seemed to be going left, and at this point, the best solution was a blood transfusion. He sensed my confusion and began an elaboration of something about hemoglobin and red and white cells and other things that I couldn't quite grasp. It started to sound like a faraway echo as my entire life flashed right before my eyes. Their look of shock and amazement of my presence caught me by surprise. They really got my attention when I heard someone mention putting me in ICU due to my critical condition. Now I'm thinking, critical condition? I didn't feel like death was upon me, but apparently it was in close proximity. They brought clarity to my vision when they explained that a person in my disposition is usually brought in by ambulance, unconscious or delirious. It finally hit me just how serious this was. I began imagining my lifeline flattening. Now, I heard that death come in 3s. I do believe in everlasting life with the Trinity. I wasn't sure if number 3 was me, but I do know at that point I just wasn't ready. They deemed it quite astonishing for me to still be operating among the living. That woman in the book of Matthew only touched the hem of his garment. But surely I was covered by Jesus completely. And it had to be the blood of Jesus because up to that day, my cycle had been spinning out of control and very inconsistent. The blood count of 3 actually meant that my blood was practically non-existent. And back to this dangerously low iron. They called it menorrhagia. Now, I heard a lot of women say that most female problems start with MEN, but this didn't qualify as men sin against me. This boiled down to me needing blood and needing it in a hurry. I braced myself before I asked what was the cause and pressed pause on my racing thoughts to process what came next. In layman's terms, I was told that my issue of blood was caused by a group of vampires called fibroid tumors. Rumor had it that they were feasting on the blood in my womb for growth at an alarming rate. And I said, come on, doc, you got to give it to me straight. He said that my womb was infested with these blood-sucking thugs. Therefore, it could not produce the nations that it was made to produce, and basically reducing my chances of becoming a mother to 0. At that point, I needed the strength and courage of a superhero You need to get in tune with the fact that holding on to your womb is preparing you for an early grave. Now, I had tried several other methods to save it from an eviction, but I felt betrayed as I laid there years later suffering from the exact same condition. And this time, this affliction came back with a vengeance. Precancerous cells were present, leading away to cervical cancer. I looked up to God immediately because I needed answers, but that's a whole nother piece. But for peace of mind, I came to the realization that my womb, the one thing that makes me feel like a woman, was killing me. And if I wanted to live, I had to get a hysterectomy. And I chose life. Once again, the devil thought he had the best of me. But God, like he did for Job, he did for me. He prepared a table before me in the presence of the enemy. He sent me a husband who came bearing gifts, giving me the greatest opportunity. A single father of 4, giving me the chance to experience motherhood. The devil tries to pour salt, frequently reminding me that they are not mine biologically. But it's all good. I didn't give birth to them, but they're very much a part of me. I was lacking blood, but the blood of Jesus covered me. And that's the only reason I'm alive and well, standing before you, telling my story. And that's that piece.